I believe it will end in the knockout. One punch to the chin. His chin, not my chin. That would be a nice result in the UK. I back my chin, but boxing is a funny game where one punch at right time, no matter how good you are, no matter how good your chin is, changes everything. But in saying that, I still back myself. So Joseph Parker, that's what he said. He says that he's actually envisions himself knocking out Dillian Whyte in the UK. And he says that boxing is a funny game. One punch could change anything, which is true. One punch can change everything, but it could only change everything if your opponent is able to properly land on a fighter who has the skill set of Joseph Parker. Although this is very true now, I do believe that especially in the heavyweight division, anybody can get knocked out. I don't think that Dillian Whyte has the technique and the accuracy to be able to knock out Joseph Parker because, like I said, like I've been repeating myself now, but guys like AJ, guys like Andy Ruiz, these guys are better technical fighters than Dillian Whyte. These guys could not pin down and land at full punch with their combinations. Anthony Joshua is a far better talent than Dillian Whyte, yet Anthony Joshua couldn't land his power punches on Joseph Parker. And when he did land, he would just graze. At no point did you see Anthony Joshua land at full force one of his hooks, one of his straight right hands on Joseph Parker. Like I said, whenever he did land, Joseph Parker did a good job in being able to take the 50% of the full force from the punch that AJ threw to make it less effective on him. He would be bending his chin down, bending his waist down, and therefore, even if it landed, it wouldn't have the full effect. Andy Ruiz is faster on his hand speed than Dillian Whyte, yet Andy Ruiz couldn't pin down with his hand speed because he's a very fast heavyweight for a overweight heavyweight. He couldn't pin down Joseph Parker, and even when he did manage to land on Joseph Parker, once again Joseph Parker was able to take 50% of the full punching power by simply dipping and dodging. This is why I'm very confident that Dillian Whyte will not be able to knock out Joseph Parker, because Dillian Whyte doesn't have the skill set and the technical ability that someone like Joshua has. He's a lot more wild. He's a lot more clumsy. He throws his punches very wildly, especially when he's chasing. That's the key word. Especially when Dillian Whyte is chasing his opponent. That's when you see him at his clumsiest. That's when you see him at his wildness. Because, like I said, when you're standing right in front of Dillian Whyte, then he looks really good. He's landing his right hands down. He's throwing his body shots. He's throwing his uppercuts. That's when he looks really good. When he fought Dave Allen, when he fought Lucas Brown, he was landing body shots and right hands on both Dave Allen and Lucas Brown. But again, what made it easy for him to do that? Both Dave Allen and Lucas Brown were right in front of him. They weren't moving. They weren't, slipping punches. But when you saw him in there against when you saw him against Robert Helenius, he looked very wild. There were times where he was looking very wild because he had to chase Robert Helenius. Look at that fight. He was chasing Robert Helenius, and he was throwing very wild punches that left them exposed several times. And that was one of the reasons. Matter of fact, I believe in the second round when he got hurt by Robert Helenius, it was because he was throwing a wild hand, a wild hook, and he left himself exposed, and Robert Helenius countered and he hurt Dillian Whyte. When he's in there against somebody he has to chase, he ends up being very wild and he ends up leaving himself exposed. And this is why, and a lot of his punching power decreases because he's not able to land with full extent of his punching power, because he's chasing the guy rather throwing, being properly, chained to the floor and having a guy come to him where he could let his punching, combinations at full force. So it takes a lot of the punching power away. This is why I'm very confident that Joseph Parker will be able to, in fact, I'm not saying he's going to win, but I'm saying whatever the outcome, whether he wins or loses, this is why I'm very certain that he will not get knocked out, because his movement and having Dillian Whyte chase after him will take the sting out of Dillian Whyte's punches. And because Dillian Whyte gets very wild when he has to chase an opponent, and I mean very wild, I expect Dillian Whyte to be looking very wild at times against Joseph Parker. That's all I'm going to say. Because of that, I just don't see him knocking out Joseph Parker. I just don't see it. Now, do I think that Joseph Parker can knock out Dillian Whyte? To be honest, I don't see that either, because Joseph Parker's not a big puncher, and Dillian Whyte has a good chin. And in order for Joseph Parker to knock out Dillian Whyte, he has to be pushing Dillian Whyte back, because Dillian Whyte doesn't do good when he's being pushed back, when he's being bullied. He doesn't do good when he's chasing his opponent, but he also doesn't do good when he is being backed up. Because when he was fighting Derek Chisora, Chisora had him pinned when he was pinned against the ropes against Chisora. Chisora was, letting Dillian Whyte have it. He was really beating him up in the corner. And Dillian Whyte looked really tired in that particular round when he was being backed up. So this is why I believe Joseph Parker would have to be doing that in order to knock out Dillian Whyte. But do I think Joseph Parker is going to be taking that much of risk? I don't know. I felt that Joseph Parker needed to take a lot of risks against Anthony Joshua. He didn't. He gave away that fight because he was doing good with the movement, with the slipping punches, but he wasn't being offensive enough. You cannot fight a cash cow, and think you're just going to outbox him. And that's what I was preaching that throughout that fight. Throughout the build-up of that fight. But unfortunately, he just wasn't offensive enough, and he gave that fight away. He gave his WBO strap away. So he would have to be a lot more offensive and take a lot of risks against Dillian Whyte. So, like I said, I don't think Joseph Parker can knock out Dillian Whyte. I do not. But yeah, that's all I have to say, guys. Thanks for watching.